G'day, mate, and welcome to Friday Facts 296 with all kinds of bugs. I've actually got two guests with me today. I've got the classic Mojo, who's here to look at the pretty tank colours, and then I've got the lovely Lord Couture that hasn't been here for ages, I don't think, mate. Who's here for all the programming stuff at the bottom, because he at least programs mods, so he knows his stuff.
Kinda.
But
thanks for the intro, JD.
That's not a problem. So we've got tanks and cars remember their colour. It's pretty basic. They remember their colour. It's a tiny little feature, but it's a good feature. You know, you can not park five grey cars and tanks beside one another and go, the third one across is mine, probably, maybe. Check the inventory. So
I guess it depends how much multiplayer you've been playing as to just how much you want to claim a specific one as yours. The problem I find is more just finding where I left the last one.
My problem is normally just craft another tank and throw it down and accept that you're playing multiplayer. Somebody's probably already picked up or gotten in your last one and blew it up.
At the end of the day, I always considered cars and tanks to be consumable items.
Yeah, very much so.
They're not very expensive after all.
No.
They usually end up underneath a train anyway.
Under a train or left in the middle of a biter nest. Right on top of a grave marker, these sorts of places. That's where I leave my tanks.
Or an outpost somewhere a very long way away from where you currently are.
Yeah, that happens too. I find by the time I'm using vehicles to get around, it's like use a train, or it's a tank for combat, or use a train, or just rush Power Armor Mark 3 and fill it full of legs, and then I can probably run faster than the car can anyway.
Yeah, you quickly get fast in the car. I actually find that a bit annoying. I'd quite like if the car had a slightly longer lifespan, because you get it, you use it briefly maybe to find some outposts if you've pushed them further out from the defaults with RSO, or just even on the normal settings these days. And you use it for an initial explore, and by the time you've done that initial explore, it's basically past its use-by date, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get the first set of legs, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but see, legs go around rocks and trees, whereas cars aim for every tree and power pole that's in your way. So, you've got to take that into consideration as well. Do you really want the car to go faster? And have a little bit longer life? I'm like that. Cars flying. It's a short-term solution to a long-term problem of the base gets bigger than you can run around.
Making a very good argument for doubling or quadrupling the speed of tanks. They go through trees and rocks and power poles and
roboports
quite nicely.
And tanks go through roboports fine. Like, first roboport gets down, you put in some robots, and then you drive off in your tank. You come back 20 minutes later and drive over your first roboport. Yep, that's never ever happened to me multiple times. Yep. We've got tanks and cars. They've now got pretty colours.
Maybe some of my desire for the car is nostalgia from the good old days when the only vehicle you had was a car, and you used to have to go round and round in circles around the biter bases with a shotgun hanging out the window, because you didn't actually have the gun built in either, with slow caps. Those were the good old days.
Wow, that's old school.
Wasn't the car then like an old Cadillac as well?
Yeah, it was.
They actually had a slightly more modern version when I started, but originally it was, yeah.
Yeah. The old car. Go looking on the wiki. If you're bored, listen to the video in the background, open up the webpage, go to the wiki, go look up the car, go look up the early graphics. So some of them were really, really good. But then we go into the bug section. So RCeeding wrote this one, and RCeeding bugs go two ways. They're either boring and they're just tedious to find and then fix, or they're really, really interesting because they're really obscure. Or the third thing he does is he just vastly improves performance by doing what RCeeding does, just finding some way to optimize something and optimizing it at the wazoo. He got a bug about a game. It's heavily modded where it freezes for about a minute for no reason, and then it would continue on perfectly. And he was just going to blame it on the mods, which he's done. I've seen him do multiple times. But it turns...
I know we all do that.
Oh yeah, we do. Like, if you've got a heap of mods, it's like, it has to be the mod's fault.
I blame it on other people's mods.
Yes.
That too, yes.
Yes. You got to be careful with the mod you choose, because Lord Couture's SpaceX and the Train Supply Manager heavily optimized for UPS. I've seen other crap mods that do not a lot, and they just tank your performance. So it varies largely mod to mod. But yeah, it turns out there's I don't know, it's not even a bug, it's a flaw in the implementation of the code is probably a better way of putting it.
A loophole?
Yeah, that when a train's driving on a track, it opens up any gates that the train's going to pass if you took your finger off the accelerator. If a train's being driven manually, if you take your hand off the accelerator and it rolls forward, every gate that it could roll through, even if you chose straight, left, or right, it would roll through without a problem and not hit any gates. At least that's the idea.
Simple, isn't it? So just open all the gates just in case so it doesn't crash into it.
Yeah, it's a basic, simple operation, and there's a little bit of formula in here, O to the n to the power of 2, blah, 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 which is fine when n is small, except this particular modded game had trains with an acceleration of, what's that, 10,000%?
10,000%, yes.
And a top speed of 2,500%. So,
Wow.
yeah, instant death, I believe, is what they're called. If you're anywhere near a train track at any time.
And you got to have that intersection as well, right?
Yeah, that intersection is the best part because it loops back on itself several times, which actually mean one train is scanning the whole train network every single time. And if it loops back on itself, even though a gate's already been marked as it should be open, the formula wasn't optimized to say, okay, that line has already been checked. I don't need to check it a second time. So it was actually checking it a second and a third and a fourth and a 15,000th time.
O multiplied by n to the power of 2 times, as it turns out.
Yeah, and n is somewhere about 75,000.
Yes.
Um,
So you now have a very big number.
yeah, so the old algorithm, and I love this part, the old algorithm, it didn't stack overflow, which RC was a little bit surprised about. They didn't have enough track, basically, to crash the game yet, but they were getting close. It was executing the open the gates in the way, what's that, 5.7 billion times, depending on whether you're using Australian, American, or English billion, but lots and lots of times.
5,000 million?
Something like that, yeah. 5,755 million, yep. And it took 57 seconds for it to do all the operations, which was 1.6 million rails per game tick.
That's actually not bad.
Which, when you think
good,
about
isn't it?
that's pretty amazing. Right? So, yeah, an astonishing amount of calculations that it didn't crash the game. And checked all the gates. And, no train would have ever hit any gate. That's important.
Yeah. All the gates are safe.
Yeah. And RC was be able to redo the algorithm, changing the formula, and it could do the logic, 42,000 times now? And it took 0.009 seconds. So
42,000 iterations took, what is that? That is...
not a lot of time.
So like 100th, just under 100th a second.
Yeah.
I should have pre-calculated to determine what that measured in UPS.
0.0001 UPS, or near enough to.
Basically nothing.
That's
more like
nothing.
What the Pathfinder is like.
Yeah.
In comparison, because this one wasn't specific to a train running on auto, where, as far as I understand it, when the train is searching a possible path, as soon as it encounters a path that's already completed, it just stops.
Yeah, if a train's on auto, it doesn't run this particular calculation. You use a different one because it knows what path it's going to take, and therefore would only open the gates that are in its way. Whereas, because it's a manual driver, they have no idea which way you're going to pick for the train to go. So it opens every gate just in case.
So I guess there was a performance thing here for don't drive your trains on manual.
Yeah.
Actually to the destination, and you'd save UPS.
Yeah. Get on that train, hold down the control button, click where you want to go, and it uses less UPS, correct. And actually, because it's pre-plotted the path, Yeah, because it's pre-plotted the path, it means, one, you're not going to run into anything. But two, it should save UPS because all the other trains are going to know, or the train pathfinder is going to know what decisions have been made because it's made them automatically. Yeah. But I found the most interesting part about this whole thing is on the actual official forums, nobody understands anything our setting says. Well,
Of course.
I take that back. Some people do, but most people don't care what our setting... No, that's probably still wrong. Our setting says stuff, and most people went, okay, that's really nice, but there's one chain signal missing right here. That was the general walk away with from the whole thread, you know. There's a chain signal missing in this horrible, like, never ever, please, never ever build this intersection ever in your life. It is absolutely horrible, but there's a chain signal missing.
It's funny how that's just the biggest issue that people found with a junction. I mean, that one missing chain signal doesn't change the fact that this perimeter in the core that's yellow is one giant block, so only one train can cross it.
Anything goes through the red section, nothing else can be on. Well, anything goes through the red section. Technically, the outside lanes could be used, but
no, they can't. Because you have to go through the yellow to get to the red.
Oh, if it's a 1-1... No, because they're chain signals. If there were full signals, maybe. But yeah, anything that goes through the yellow section blocks off the whole intersection.
Yep.
So it's a one train throughput train intersection. So if you've got an acceleration of 10 bazillion% with a top speed of 2 bazillion%, you know, it doesn't really matter how crap your intersections are because the trains will get through fast enough.
Well, that might actually be why they
use that mod.
Yeah. Just take all the effort out of your intersections. This is why we use T-junctions, and we all steal Mojo's blueprints because they're awesome. So yeah, and then we've got the crashing on the dereferencing null added null check, which I'm really hoping Lorcator can explain this to us because we're not entirely sure. But we got our city got another bug report about another game freezing, consuming all the available RAM, and then crashing when it ran out of RAM. It was again a heavily modded save game, and he's just was going to blame it on the mod, but he had to test it, and again, it's never what you think it is. So it was chewing up all the RAM. The game was chewing up all the RAM and then crashing, and it was because it tried to create furnace smoke. And it was trying to make 4 billion, this is American billion, because our setting's American, smokes from a furnace. And it was because a small negative sign integer was being converted to unsigned, which means nothing to me. So shoot, Lorcator, what's that mean?
Okay, let's start off with the easy one.
Okay.
Small negative signed integer was being converted to unsigned. If you have a binary number, it's just ones and zeros, right?
Uh-huh.
At some point in time, you may want that to be able to represent negatives. So how do you do that?
Computers can't subtract to start with, but yeah, okay.
It's like you have it's like you count down from the maximum number and you sort of meet in the middle, or you know, something to that effect. So basically, what's happening here is the computer was not sure whether it was dealing with a signed number or an unsigned number. So suddenly what could have been a very small, maybe negative number suddenly became a gigantic number, or vice versa.
Okay, so something went wrong because somebody didn't define what a number was meant to be. And then obviously it had to end up as a negative because the furnace code looks at current amount of smoke minus last amount of smoke equals this cycle was less than last cycle, which should never be possible. At least that's the way I understand it. And then because the furnace burner had made a negative amount of progress in burning the fuel, which again is not possible, because the remaining amount of fuel for this item to burn was also negative. Negative fuel values are invalid, and the game won't even reach this main menu if a mod tries to set one. And then because the mod API didn't prevent the mods from doing this, entity.burner.remaining burning fuel equals -1, and the game didn't properly clear remaining amount of fuel from this item to be burnt when the item being burnt was removed due to mod migration removal. So it looks like it was a bug on a bug on a bug on a bug on a bug.
Cascading things.
Yeah.
Highly obscure as well, it would seem.
Yeah, it's one of those bugs that gets Arsene's brain working and really like, what is the root cause? And it starts off with something simple, but then he's obviously realised there's like 5 other mistakes, which I've highlighted in purple for those watching. There's 5 other mistakes that's causing or making the problem worse, I guess, from the original mistake. And yeah,
it's actually interesting because there already are checks in place for that sort of thing. With the third point where the game does actually check for negative fuel values and will just reject loading that mod.
Yeah.
If that.
But because it was from a migrating a save or a mod removal, I guess, it's bypassing that first check.
Yeah.
So, things work and then mod migration happens and then things don't work. And then it causes you to negatively burn fuel, which can't be possible. And then everything goes wrong. And then you get 4 billion smoke, which is like about as average polluted as most mega bases are. Yeah.
About normal.
About normal. So yeah. Interesting, full of bugs. Well, full of obscure bugs, and yeah, I don't know how people can come up with some of the crazy stuff they do to find these bugs, and why any. I'm still caught on why any train needs to have an acceleration of 100,000%, because that's just
kind of insane. Yeah.
It's asking you to die.
Yeah, it might look cool for a few minutes, but it kind of defeats a lot of the purpose of the game, you think, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I wonder what the maximum acceleration and top speed bonus you can actually apply to a train.
I'm actually curious that if you put in safe rail crossings, would they be safe?
There's a thought.
Like, is there ever going to be enough of a gap with all the trains, because we've already worked out how they move the gates out of the way and allow them to shut. So is there ever going to be a situation where the trains are far enough away with their top speed and their acceleration from a safe crossing where the gates would actually open to let a player walk through? Or whether it's just a reasonably safe crossing where the gates are always open and a player can choose to run it. And there's an 80% chance that you'll probably make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Do you want?
Nah, Locator's gone.
He's lost him.
Yeah.
No.
What?
I'm still here, aren't I?
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah. It's just silly laptop trying to time out or something. So do you want me to tackle this referencing null?
Yeah. Sure. If you can provide more details so it makes sense to the rest of us, go for it.
All right. We had a brief discussion over this at the beginning, just to try and clarify it a little bit. So I'm going to try and put it in layman's terms as much as I can. Let's break it down into little pieces. We start off with the referencing bit. What that normally refers to in code is, for example, referencing an object, or an object might be something like a train stop. And as an object, you can then do different things with the train stop. You might be able to work out what trains are headed there, where it is on the map, things like that. So that's an object. So you create a reference to that object in your code, and then you can do things with it. Dereferencing it would be basically clearing that object reference, so you're no longer referring to that train stop. Effectively, it's, null. So now we've got this concept crashing on dereferencing null. What does that mean? Well, null in this context, I would suggest means that the object hasn't been given a reference already, so it's already sitting as a null. And then you're attempting to set a null to a null, which is not something that Lua is going to be particularly happy with, and it will crash. So the discussion, or the point that our seeding is making here is maybe when you see a bug that clearly dereferencing null, that's wrong, just put in a null check. What he's trying to suggest is maybe you need to go somewhat deeper than just the superficial immediate cause of it to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
Root cause analysis.
Yeah. Which has led to him finding that even though there were, as we said earlier, even though there are steps in place to not allow this sort of stuff happen, turns out if you creative or just had bad luck, you can sidestep all those safeguards and suddenly crash the game with positive 4 billion smoke. Yeah. Yeah.
Who would have thought? 4 billion smoke.
Yeah, smoke's been horrible for the game. It's always caused problems. Anyway, I think that's it for this Friday Facts. There's 3 of us, which is a different change. Maybe next time we'll manage to catch Lord Couture at home, where he's not using a lovely laptop microphone.
It's just sort of echoing back.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sure everyone's screaming right now, just mashing the keyboard. Ah!
Yeah.
It doesn't sound too bad for me.
Oh, it's fine for you. Yeah, it's great for you. No, it is what it is. So, yeah, maybe another week. I don't know. Tell us down in the comments. Do you want to see more of 3 of us? We dragged in Lord Couture because we're like, me and Mojo are like, we need a programmer. Oh, Lord Couture's free. And it fit well having 3 Australians, I figure.
Convenient.
Convenient, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, thoughts, comments, suggestions, and tell us whether you want more of 3 of us again.
More 3 ways.
Yeah, more 3 ways. We'll leave it at that. So, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.